Twitch. Seriously, this is my face for this morning. Twitch is like, you must re-log in. And then it is like, oh, all of your information has been reset and you didn't think so because my screen was saying that it was fine and I lied, says Twitch. Twitch was lying to us this morning. Like, we need to just excommunicate it. It needs to just go away. There needs to be something better. Sorry, Twitch. YouTube is gaining on you because of this crap, Twitch, okay? Just saying. Like, Facebook Live ain't gonna make it, but YouTube? YouTube. David thinks that's really funny. All right. Subscribed with Prime. Chibi, thank you for this sub-anniversary. Happy sub-anniversary. Happy sub-anniversary. Happy sub-anniversary. Happy sub-anniversary. Yay, Chibi. Yeah, it's something. It's something. Yeah, well, it said it was, you know, it had the right screen up, it had the right alert up, it had the right everything up, and then when I actually, like, clicked it, it's like, nope. I'm in a, like, kick Twitch in the teeth mood. When the thing about it, Chibi, is that when something, like, you know, grouse in my face, I tend to get very spunky at it, and so it comes off as a good mood, but it's actually more of a snark mood. Like, it's more equivalent to snark than it is a true good mood. When I'm in a true good mood, everything is happy, and I love everything. It's all good. Today, it's like, that. It's like that. Well, you know, I mean, it's not a healthy mood. It just is, right? It's like Twitch. I should not let it bother me. It is just Twitch. It has nothing to do with me. I am now here. I don't know. Sometimes snark is overdone, I think. People make snark a way of life when they ought to make, you know, like, more positive feelings a way of life. And my paper is uncentered, so it has a blorf on it. There we go. I still have a blorf. The problem is I got a shiny new piece of paper out, and then I blorfed on it, like, right away. Don't you hate it when that happens? The only good thing about this is that I have lots of other sheets of paper, but I did not replace it yet because I feel like I should not waste the brand new sheet of paper because of one blorf. Yo, Val. Whew. Wow. So, Max, this is day 4, Max, of me getting up early to do my workout so that my back gets better. And day 4 is definitely when the newness of it wears off and you start feeling like, why am I doing this? And so you are no longer motivated by the newness of the thing. Now you are like, wow, this is a grind. Why did I decide to do this after all? You know, like some days you go to the gym and you're just like, pow, and you power through your workout and you're all excited. This morning was definitely that wake up and still feel like you ought to be in bed moment where it was really hard to do my upward dogs. Let's just say that. Upward dogs were not, like, fun this morning. Hello, M. Fontana. Thank you for the resub. 17 months. Life is blorfs. Zen thought, hey, do we need that t-shirt too? Remember, okay, so for those who didn't know, like, yesterday we decided Unjudge was our call sign for this stream. And for Anne in general. So life is blorfs. Blorfs are life. Life is blorfs. I think we just need a t-shirt that says that. So yesterday I went on Zazzle and I made myself a one-off with hashtag Unjudge and then my painting big on the back. So when it comes, I'm going to see what the t-shirt quality is. And if it's good, then I'll be like, okay. And I'll make a little Zazzle store. And we can have, like, a painting big t-shirt finally. And we can have the Unjudge, the hashtag Unjudge t-shirt. And then I like the Life is Blorfs. Like, I'll need to make a Blorf art to go up there. Yeah. Life is Blorfs. I agree. So I need that. I need somebody to make me that. Like, if any of you have any graphic design, like, know-how to make a nice scalable graphic, you know, of the appropriate size and resolution, I don't know if I'm up for that. Feel free to make it Life is Blorfs and just put a big paint splatter behind Blorfs. And we will make Life is Blorfs our 3rd t-shirt. And then we will have 3 t-shirts. We will look like a real store. But yes, hashtag Unjudge. And I looked, and, like, Unjudge Me is apparently, like, I think it's an R&B song. Like, it's, like, it was the only thing I could find with Unjudge on the internet. So Unjudge is ours, guys. Because we're talking about unjudging ourselves, for the most part. Unjudge Me is kind of like, you know, go judge yourself. And I don't like that attitude either. So just Unjudge. That's us. It's ours. No one can take it now. Well, actually, everybody can. But, you know. Anyway, Life is Blorfs now becomes our 3rd t-shirt idea. And I want a nice I want a t-shirt with my big painting big dragon too. So we'll do that. And yeah, so yay! It'll be a new thing. I am here, rascal. Blorf is love, blorf is life. Life is blorfs. I think Life is Blorfs is good. Junior Chibi is an artist, but I don't want to abuse her skills. It's like, if she feels like it, if she feels like doing it, then awesome. If she doesn't feel like doing it, I know how that goes. You don't get love that way. You don't get awesome art that way. Hey, SMR, thanks for the resub. 9 months. Everybody's resubbing today. Sweet. All right, now we should stop talking about, like, our hashtags for the show and for painting big in general and get onto our kitty. What are we doing today? Yeah, it was weird. OBS, it was mostly OBS, but like Twitch, like I got bounced out, my login expired, and it reset everything this morning. And then it was kind of conflicting on the information it was giving me on the screen, so it was like, it was not clear on what it was doing. So I was sad, and had to stop stream and start stream and refigure out what the heck was going on, you know, like those days. Kitty, Grumpy Cat. Grumpy Cat is back. Grumpy Cat has returned. Grumpy Cat, what do you need painted? You need gold, for sure. Now we're to the shiny gold, I think. We went in and got our nice silver highlights on our silver. I haven't done the silver on the back, but that's all right. I'm all right with the back right now, because the back is the back. We can tune the back later. I want the front to be done. So yeah. We will do gold today, I think. Just get that gold done, and then maybe we'll do some touch-ups on leather and the armor and everything. We're getting to the point where once we have this all blocked in, now we just come back in and we tune everything to the point where we want it. So at that point, if I decide I want the armor to pop just a little bit, then that will be where we go. But yeah, the nice thing about these Catfolk is their faces, well, being sculpted by Julie, you know, Julie is a pro and does animals wonderfully. The faces are big enough for you to really put various kitty markings on them. And the fur is clear enough. Like she just has mostly fur texture at the cheeks, which is nice because you don't want a lot of chunky fur texture. If you had a lot of chunky fur texture, you wouldn't be able to do these nice little lynx markings like we did. So yeah, so this is definitely Grumpy Cat who just got like surprised and is looking at taking out her opponent. I love how she's scowling. Like I love it. Like if I look at her face on, she's got a very determined look. Very determined, like she's like, grr, I'm gonna get him. And if you look at her from slightly above, she's definitely Grumpy Cat. So yeah, you can add more character to the faces. Yeah, Julie's just really good at that. She's really got it down. All right, so let's mix up some colors and let's try to really be productive this stream. Let's yeah, having said that, I will now curse myself. And we'll get all of our stuff mixed up. Yeah, Julia, you know I always give you props on this show. It is no accident that I end up painting many Julie Guthrie figures on this show. Let us just say that. Let's get some shadows in. There, boom. Get our mid-tone. Man, I go through rich leather. Like, I think I'm going through almost more rich leather than white these days, guys. That's ridiculous. Like, or I'm going through them at the same speed, which is, like, unnerving. Like, how the heck? Speaking of which, I don't know if my last Reaper order got lost in the ether. Like, I ordered some new stuff for the stream, but I don't remember if I actually got a shipping notice or anything. That's true. Like, it is true if you don't have the time to, like, really go in. Like, I think I heard Bobby talking about this, where he's like, when you make a 3D sculpt, if you want it to look like a real sculpt, it's actually more work. So, like, you have to go in and you have to add in imperfections and you have to, you know, make things a little uneven, just a little. And then it looks like a real sculpted piece. Whereas if you just do the flat mirror and you leave it super clean, it looks like just something, it doesn't have the life, right? So they get it, but it is actually more work to make a 3D sculpt look like a real sculpt because you have to add those imperfections, those tool marks, as he calls it. So it's a different beast that way. I just thought that was very interesting. And there are some sculptors. Who was it, David? What company was it? We were looking at their pieces the other day, and it really looked like it was a digital, but it really was looking good. I don't remember who it was. It looked natural. What? Oh, was it the new, what was it? You remember we were talking about, like, the one that had really good texture. Oh, it might have been the Scale 75 Dragon Rider. Yeah, maybe.
It, like, the little dents on the metal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, so there's a new scale 75. It's actually technically, I suppose, a Velociraptor rider because it's a dark elf. But the new scale 75 model is an example of a model that is digital, but they've gone in and made a lot of irregularities, and it looks like, it doesn't look like a digital model. So I think that as sculptors get better with digital and get more, you know, like more into their groove with digital, at least when they have the time to really go in and tweak things, they'll be able to create stuff that has that real feel. Doesn't think she can do a good blurf? I am happy to send money. Like, I am happy to pay them. Just email me at painting.big1@gmail.com, and if we get art, we will gladly pay. I do not expect free art. Being an artist who expects to get paid for her work, I don't expect free work. If they want to do it, that doesn't mean they shouldn't get paid for it. Especially when it's something that I myself don't feel that I can do. Like, I could probably throw something together, but it wouldn't look nearly as good as somebody who regularly does illustration work. All right, we got our happy colors all piled up. Let us mix them with water. But yeah, I know how they're college students, aren't they, Chibi Amy? So yeah, they've got lives. They're busy. That's why I mostly was asking out here in my greater stream family if anybody had a little bit of graphics design chops where they could put one together. And I am, again, willing to pay for that. Because, you know, artists should support each other. I mean, I could always go to Fiverr if I had to. But if one of you guys can do it, then cool. Yeah, whatever. Whatever, Chibi. If it works, it doesn't. No rush. No rush. I have to wait for my t-shirt to arrive as a sample, and that's going to be like the first bit of March probably, because it's a custom one-off, so it takes them a while. They don't prioritize it because they're not making a lot of money off of it. So my unjudged t-shirt will be a while, and you have time. Well, like I said, they shouldn't feel any pressure. Life is blorfs. Yay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, side jobs is cool if they want to do it, because I get it. I was an artist who was in college, and all of my energy was taken up with being in college. Like, a friend of mine asked me if I would design like a motorcycle helmet design for his helmet, and I was just like, dude, I don't have the oomph. So side job's great and money's great, but sometimes you just don't have the oomph as a college student. I get it. Now, some of that oomph may have gone to partying and staying up too late, but, you know, that's just what you do when you're in college. You have freedom, and so you utilize it. You do not always utilize it in the smartest fashion. It is part of learning to life. Now, I need a lining color. Where is I was using walnut, I think, for a lot of this. Oh, that's not walnut. That's pure black. We don't want that. We wanted that yesterday, but not the day before. But not this day. Yeah. Alrighty, kitty. Let's get your stuff going. So for little areas, as I talked about, for those of you who are on my Patreon, we talked about on the $15 paint along tier. I talked about this before, but I will touch on it briefly here. When you are working on tiny little NMM areas, you do not need to do the full shebang or to worry too much about excessive realism. It just needs to look good. Yes, exactly. College students must set priorities. They may not be the right priorities, but they set them. But you know what? Right is definitely a subjective term. Like, the right priorities differ by the person and differ by the parent versus student, and often the payout of said priority may not be evident until far down the line. You may do something really stupid in college, but it may actually teach you something that enables you to be a better human later. So, personally, I don't regret any of my, like, younger, stupider experiences, and there were a lot of them. I've just pretty much, like, said, thanks, experiences, for teaching me stuff, and let them go. As long as they don't, like, seriously endanger themselves or others. Like, that you draw the line there, right? There is a line. There's definitely a line. But you can't stop anybody from doing anything. Like, you can't make anybody do or not do anything. Can't change people. They have to change themselves. Yeah, we stayed up we had way too many D&D games running. Like, I think at one time in college, I had 5 D&D games going. Like, 5 days of the week we did D&D. And they weren't the weekend days. That's terrible. All right. So this is what I mean by just, like, kind of, like, generalizing on these little strips of light of thing. You're going to have light that's going to be falling down from her shoulder. The highest raised part is going to pick it up, and you're going to get your shadow, and then you're going to get your reflection down here. And really, doing that is usually enough, as long as your shadow is dark enough. And then you've got more of a shine. Yeah. Yeah, I was also working, later in my college career, I was actually working a full-time job alongside with trying to scale down some of my college NRS, so I feel that. That was when I was getting more practical about life, where I was like, you know what? I really want enough money to live on and not worry about finances, and so I need to take a real job. That's funny, Francis. But yeah, oh, we could go on. But so I totally get it with college people. They want to do their own thing. They don't even, sometimes they just choose, like, they could make some quick, you know, cash, but they're like, I don't really need the quick cash right now, or I just don't want it enough to go for it. It's all good. Haha, adulting. Oh no, Cookie Tigress. Yeah, you need to fix that. And on these surfaces up here, like this buried surface where you really wouldn't get another highlight along the upper surface, you just kind of generalize and go out and hit that outer edge. This didn't work, so when I bury it, you just need to emphasize where the light is falling here on the pommel. You know, you can learn to be practical, but you don't have to stay practical. Well, and there's practicality. I mean, practicality is practicality, but then there's, you know, a lot of adulting is just kind of us imposing rules on ourselves that really don't matter. So, like I said, don't harm yourself or anybody else. But do feel to go dance in the rain at times. My mom yells at me for dancing in the rain. She doesn't like it when I do it when she's around. I'm like, just because I look silly to you is not a reason to stop dancing in the rain. I don't care if I'm 40-something. I don't care. I won't care when I'm 60-something. I'm still gonna dance in the rain. Screw that. Screw that adult expectation crap. Who cares? Have fun. Be yourself. Am I hurting everybody by dancing in the rain? I don't think so. I mean, the worst you could say is that I encourage small children to also dance in the rain, which I think is a plus. What's on my palette? Oh, the usual suspects in our with the NMM gold. Although, Yeah, that's my typical range. I've got the liner out there and the pure white out there. But you will notice again that the mix I make, which is 4 drops NMM Gold Highlight, 1 drop of Lantern Yellow, and 1 drop of Rich Leather, looks just like NMM Gold base. It's just, for me, it's a little more transparent, which I like. It's a little more blendable. Yeah, that's what I'm... the only thing I think I miss out of the Midwest, Francis, is the warm rains. Because here, when it's the rainy season, it's also cold. We got some good summer thunderstorms in Texas, though. All right, so we've got that little dagger pretty much nailed. We just got a little bit. See how hitting that brings everything around it out. It's very nice, and I like the warm yellow and how it's acting with the green and the blue. It does make me want to hit another highlight on these plates, though. Suggest a little bit more warmth and shine on the green leather. Because as I finish everything else out, remember, this is the secret of the soft finish, is once you've finished everything out, you can go back and adjust. As far as making sure stuff looks shiny when it should be shiny, making sure that it looks dull when it should be dull, but still making sure that you have enough highlights to make it, all the details come out. So, yeah, rain equals winter. Wait, what is that? What is Anne actually painting? It looks done. The gold. We don't have the gold here on the, or it's probably brass on weapons, but I paint it like gold anyway, because it's snaztastic. And if it was a super fancy magical sword, it would be gold, so. Yeah, the gold is the last part on this model that we haven't done. And so I'm going to, that and I need to fancy up her basing. I'm going to send this one to Ron, I think. She'll go live at Reaper. Grumpy Cat will have a home at Reaper. And then when I finish Dancing Girl, I'll send that one to Ron too. And so that way Ron should be happy. He'll get 3 minis he didn't even have to pay for. I just did them and sent them because I love Reaper and it has been so good to me. So it gets a free mini every once in a while. As a thank you for having me on its show. In general, thank you to life, really. All right, so right here is where, right at this angle, the metal's going to kind of drop, right? It's curving around, and then it's kind of going to fall off the front of the arm here. And that's where you want your bright highlight to hit the eye of the viewer. So we're going to bring up our highlight. We're generally doing a lighter color across the top here on these gold rims on the armband. Well, yeah, but I mean, here, Crowley, I'm being paid to teach you guys and to, to essentially fill time, right? This is paying for my time. And then, I don't have any deal with Reaper where I have to send them these figures when they're done. Like, that is not part of the deal. But I like to because, I'm thankful to Reaper for giving me this opportunity. Be very careful. I know you're half joking, but be very careful with that thinking, because it's very easy then to end up doing a lot of stuff, for maybe an hourly rate that is much less than you would normally demand. Like, sure, he paid me to paint this here, but did he pay for my time and for the instruction effort, and then, does that add up to what I would normally charge for a commission figure, I know I harp on this a bit, but I'm trying to correct my own thinking on the subject. For a very long time, I did not charge what I was worth. And a lot of us artists feel that way. A lot of us artists feel kind of guilty charging what we instinctually feel. Or our instincts are just all haywire and we're not sure what to charge, right? I had to distill it down to an hourly rate to really have, a good gut instinct of what to charge for a project. Until I did that, I was like totally at sea. I didn't know what to charge. Yes, there's a joke in there about sending Ron a Dancing Girl. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I like that smell of oncoming rain too. We do get that a little bit here in California. Like, I've noticed it in the winter when it's a little bit warmer. It's just that the winter tends to dampen smells, right? So you don't get it as much. All right, so putting a little bit of shadow underneath the highlight there. We're going to bring up this under reflection here to be a little brighter on the bottom, but you never bring it up full strength. Yeah, rain smells great. I don't miss the rest of Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm actually happy when you bring that stuff, like when you say stuff like that, Carly, because it lets me kind of bring that into the stream, that thought about, you know, charging what you're worth as an artist. There are a lot of people on here who paint for money or have considered taking a commission, you know, or starting to take commissions or selling on eBay or working for a miniatures company maybe. So I like to talk about it because it's not talked about enough, and we all end up feeling like a little bit guilty. I had Marika yell at me once because I was charging what she felt was not nearly enough for my skill level. And I still technically, like for my patrons, when I put up a model for sale, I definitely give them a deal. But that's because they're my patrons and they're like, you know, they're supporting me. Like, I wouldn't have an income if it wasn't for Patreon, not a real one. Like, this is part-time income. That's not enough to, like, pay for actual life, you know? Car insurance and all the rest of it. So yeah, patrons, I think, deserve to get a special rate on some of my work. All right, a little bit of highlight on the back also. Need to come back and dot these little metal things. Nice. Oh, I know, when the snow slides off your roof in big chunks. I remember that from growing up in Wisconsin. It's like, it's really super entertaining, but yeah, you feel like if you go outside, you're in danger of your head getting clobbered. Totally. I missed a rivet. Let's see here. I want, yeah. Yeah, I'm ready for spring and summer here. I'm ready for life to kind of get back to like regular lifiness. That's a word, right? Lifiness. There, a little bit of highlight on the underside of that just to bring up the bounced light. We haven't added the pure white highlight here yet. I'll probably have to trim this up with a little bit of lining. When you're highlighting really small things like this, it's easy to get outside of the lines. Don't worry about it. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just go in and correct it. There we go. We've got a nice blingy ring around that bracelet. And I just need some white on the back. Don't tell Ron. No, we do. We all do, right, Julie? It's like you feel guilty. You feel like you're getting away with something when you can do your art for a living. Yes, they call it imposter syndrome. It is a definite thing. Artists and writers and other creative types who are like doing their dream job, like we all get this feeling like the thought police are going to show up on our door with a clipboard and tell us that we can't make up things. We can't make up things for a living anymore. We have to go out and get a real job. That's the way Neil Gaiman put it. He's like, he has this fear of just like some guy with a clipboard coming and I'm sorry, Mr. Gaiman, but you can no longer make up things for a living. You have to go out and get a real job. So writers get it a lot, as do musicians and other artists. And it's kind of sad that we feel that way, right? We should be like jumping for joy that we get to get up in the morning and freaking sculpt miniatures or paint miniatures on stream or write, you know, work on our latest book or whatever. We ought to be like super happy. Instead, we feel guilty. What is this, society? What? All this mental baggage that we give ourselves. Hey, I have a question. Somebody on here recommended a book to me called The Four Agreements, and I've been listening to it, and I really like it. So I wanted to thank whoever it was who recommended that book. It's a self-helpery type of book, but it says a lot of the same things a lot of other self-helpery books do, but it says it in a different way, which is always useful. So yeah, whoever recommended that book. Art is a real job. It is. I mean, it can be a struggle sometimes. Like, being an artist is not easy. Most of us don't make a ton of money, right? We're not going to get rich anytime soon. We're happy if we just have enough to like contribute to our retirement funds. so that we're not going to be destitute when we get old. Although the nice thing about being an artist is that you don't have to stop, right? Like those of you, did anybody else watch the BlizzCon opening ceremonies at the end when Metallica came on? I was like, holy crap, he can still sing, and his voice is probably better now at, is he in his 50s, the lead singer? Probably better now than it ever has been. Like, so artists don't, the nice thing about being an artist is like, maybe as a rock star you do have to retire at some point. I don't know though. I always really admire when the rock stars of my youth are still out there kicking butt, and they've actually improved. If they haven't like stayed really good, they've some of them have actually like gotten better. In RA, you can make a living at miniatures. I mean, I'm kind of living proof here. I mean, given I in order to make it work, like there are people out there who will tell you, oh, you can't make a living off of Patreon because fees and things, and it's like, well, I don't think that's correct. The bulk of my income is Patreon. That said, doing also Twitch and doing also commissions and doing also model sales, it's all of that. And you're always working at it, right? So you have to make sure that if you're going to go into this as a job, that you have several ways to leverage your income streams so that you can always bolster up if a part of your miniatures empire starts to falter. And you've got to always kind of figure in taxes, you know, because that takes a big chunk out of you when you're self-employed, and stuff like that. So is it possible to make a living at painting miniatures? Yes, if you work your tail off, you can do it. Like if today David and I split up and I had to move to a random state to work, I might have to bust butt, I might get a part-time job, but maybe not, because actually I think I could make it work. I think I could make it work if I moved to a state that was, you know, fairly cheap cost of living. So yes, you can, but it takes work. Now, what I always do tell people is that this is a very good part-time job, in my opinion. Very good part-time job. Yeah, the problem with making your hobby your job is that you may need a new hobby. This is Julie says. Yep. Oh yeah, James, Metallica lead singer is 57. His voice is freaking amazing now. Like, wow. I was shocked. Really good. He's obviously worked at keeping it. If Mick Jagger is out there, he's a zombie. Yeah, I know, Shadow Raven, you've nailed it. A hobby to reduce burnout from your hobby job, which will then become a new side gig, so you need a new hobby. You have now defined my life. Mick Jagger is 77. Yeah, I mean, based on it, I mean, James from Metallica, I mean, he looks good, too. He looks like he's in shape. He looks like, you know, he could probably keep, like, rock starring for at least another 5-10 years if he keeps up the fitness regimen and keeps his voice in shape. It's pretty impressive. I always love seeing that. Hello, Stick Death. You mean the armor or just in general? Yeah, you know a few people who do painting on commission, but it's totally a side thing. Yeah, miniature painting is a really good side gig. When you go full-time at this hobby, you need to hard commit to it, and I think that Patreon is almost a necessity these days, because you need that monthly income every month. Like, that's what makes it possible. Patreon, for me, makes it possible. All of it? Thanks, Stick Death. Yeah, she's really come along, Grumpy Cat, as we were calling her, and she's the grumpy rogue. I'm doing the gold non-metallic metal now on the swords, and then we're gonna go and fix up some stuff on the back that's less done to bring it up to par on the top. And I'm probably gonna end with doing just a bit more of a highlight on the green armor, because after I do everything else and bring everything else up, I may want just a touch more highlight on the green armor. Oh, that's funny, Francis. Twisted Oma, lots of practice, Stick Death. I've been painting for a very long time. And every time you paint something, you're going to get better brush control, right? So to get eyes that are that tight, well, part of it is just luck, nailing those highlights, I'll tell you that. But part of it is also just making sure your paint consistency is correct. Because you want your paint to actually be a little thin, which seems counterintuitive, but you want it to come off your really fine-tipped brush easily. So you actually do need to thin it a bit more than you would think to get like neat little eyes like that. Otherwise, it's brush control. which you're going to develop as you paint. So my big brush control tips, the biggest one really, is to always make sure that you're keeping your brush roughly like the same angle. So like if I needed to paint something over here, I wouldn't do this. I would actually move the model so that I could keep my brush going in the same brush stroke I usually do. That is like the biggest single tip that I can give you for building better brush control. The second is just to try the little stuff. Like if you never really try to get better at eyes or better at hitting these little details, you're just not going to, because you're building motor control, fine motor control. And there's a limit to that if you're not trying to hit those little things. So actually attempting to do this stuff on a regular basis is part of what gets you the skill to do eyes reliably, so that you can nail them. Oh, Iggy Pop just released a neat. Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, yeah, fine brush and fine control and thinner paint. HM Road Dog, remember. Yeah, I should do a set of short tips on the YouTube. I know, it's on my list, Stick Death. I've got so many things that I do right now. But that is on the list. The list of things to do. My Patreon takes a lot of my time with the coaching and commission work and other stuff. And every once in a while I get to paint something that I actually want to paint. But yeah, the quick tips, the very quick tips for YouTube is, I agree with you, something I need to prioritize in the near future. I should probably make it a priority for 2021, one of my 2021 priorities. Oh, and somebody asked about my book. It's been about 2 months since she asked for more of it. So she asked for the first 50 pages of it. It's not unusual for it to take 2 to 3 months for an agent to get back to you. I mean, they have to find time to read that in addition to all their other stuff that they're doing. So I'm still fine. I'll probably touch base with her at the 3-month mark just to make sure she got it, you know. But in general, you don't want to annoy your agent, your prospective agent, when you're trying to get on their list. So I have not heard from her, but that's sometimes no news is good news. Like, the good part of not hearing from her is, hey, I haven't gotten the rejection yet. Oh, no, not at all, Good Huntsman. I've actually been writing for about the same amount of time as I've been painting. Like, I always wanted to be a writer when I was a kid. So it's actually a young adult fantasy set in a world based on Norwegian folktales. So, and it's part of a 2-book series. I'm working on rewriting and editing the second book now. Oh, hey, stretch break. But yeah, so this also gives me time to work on finishing up the second book. It's written, but it needs a serious rewrite because I wrote it a while ago, and it's rough. It's rough, man. It's like looking at your minis from 8 years ago and going, ooh. I had quit my real job at Equifax to be a miniature painter for a year. I moved out to the East Coast and worked briefly part-time for Games Workshop, Stick Death, just to really give myself a little bit of extra money a week and to get the employee discount. After that, I moved back. I broke up with the guy I'd been with out there, and I moved back to Wisconsin briefly, which is where I'm originally kind of from, where I grew up. And my friend Jennifer Haley, who's also a famous miniature painter, had gotten invited by Reaper for their first ever artist conference down to Texas. And they'd asked her, well, are there any other painters that you think would be really good out here? And Jen was like, Anne, invite Anne. So I got this email maybe 2 weeks before the event, I think, inviting me down. And so I came down to Texas, and what they really wanted was for us to review their brushes and their paints, their new pro paints. Pro paints were big and new at that time. So yes, and I will do my stretch in a second, I promise. I'll finish the story first though. So I went down there, and Ed and Ron, who are two of the owners of Reaper, were, watching everybody and in there and talking to everybody, and they were really impressed with how I taught. They were impressed that if somebody came up and asked me about something I was doing, I would sit down with them right away and demo. And that's what I do. That's what I do all day on the show here, right? Every morning. So they really were looking for somebody with that sort of personality to be kind of their painter, to go to conventions and to be on the forums and to talk to people. And they also wanted somebody to help maybe formulating a new paint line that was a competitor to Vallejo. which was the probably at that time was considered the best line available in America, more or less. And so they offered me a job before the whole weekend was over. They offered me a job. And I decided, because I was between things, I was a perfect time in my life for me to move cross country. So I moved down there and I stayed for 17 years. And then last year, I'd been dating my current beau for a year and decided to move out here with David out to the West Coast. So I still work for Reaper, just part-time, and I do the streams here. So that is the dealio. Yeah, Games Workshop. Well, when I was working for Games Workshop, they were still mostly metal. This was a long time ago. This was almost 20 years ago now. And so you got the employee discount, Stick Death, and essentially you could walk in the back and you could get like a bloodthirster, like a metal bloodthirster demon, which, you know, weighed a ton, for only $7 because you're just picking it and you only had to pay the weight of the metal. So yeah, it was totally worth getting a job at Games Workshop part-time for like 10 to 12 hours a week just to get the employee discount. All right. Yeah, Reaper's West Coast Satellite. That's exactly what I am. And up to that point too, Stick Death, I did actually create that paint line for them. It's Reaper Master Series, and now it is definitely one of the competitive paint lines worldwide. So I feel like that's kind of my legacy to the community. I'm going to do some cat cows, guys. So I'm going to be off camera for a second. But yeah, so that's kind of my trajectory. Ed always said that Reaper didn't hire me for my painting ability, he hired me for my personality. Which is either an insult or shows a dire lack of judgment, in my opinion. With all the times that he and I have argued over the years, but I also count Ed as a pretty good friend, so. Alright, stretch break. Everybody get up out of your chair. I forgot to say that at the beginning of this. I usually do. If you've been sitting for more than a half an hour in one place, please get up and stretch briefly. Get your arms over your head. Get your shoulders moving. Lean back. Do some back bends. Gentle ones. Be careful, especially if you have back injury. Kind of reset your posture. Well, I think that Ed, like, he chooses alphas to lead his departments, and then he ends up arguing with them a lot. But, yeah. Right, so painting ceramics. Yeah, so for you, Stick Death, the challenge will be building your fine motor control for really small details. Unless you were doing, like, really fine stuff with ceramics. Some people do. The West Coast Avengers. Oh yeah, and tin was so cheap back then. You're right, Good Huntsman. Yeah, I mean, I remember when after I'd been at Reaper, when tin started to really spike, and Ed was like really looking at the model and getting really worried. Okay, so you've been painting minis for 4 years. That's cool. All right, I think that I've got everything realigned back here. Do some stretches over the head. Excellent. We have stretchified. We have stretched out our spine and our shoulders. Those are in our neck. Let your neck kind of fall backwards every once in a while. Because we spend our lives doing this. So you got to reverse it a little bit. In eyeballs. Yeah, that's just the finest detail. Everybody's got trouble with eyes. What I usually recommend, Stick, is Reaper's got a model called the Faceless Horror, which is kind of the gibbering mouther demon from D&D reimagined. It's actually sculpted by the same person who sculpted this, Julie Guthrie. So it's kind of a big amorphous blob with tons of eyes, and all the eyes are different sizes. And that's the thing that you want. If you want to practice eyes, get that sucker, because they're all different sizes. So you can do like ones that are as big as this at 28mm, and then they scale up, right? So you can practice doing like 54mm eyes or 72mm eyes. And it's one model, and it's in bones. It's like $7. It's got, I think Julie said like 80 some eyes on it. She counted. Yes, and there we go. Good point, Iffy. We do have the Reaper Virtual Expo coming up in March, and there are online classes for that, and one of them is on painting eyes, and people really liked it at ReaperCon last year. So 109 eyes on the Faceless Horror. There you go. Green users is Julie Guthrie and Bob Rodolfi, sculptors for Reaper, and Julie is the one who sculpted this kitty and also the Faceless Horror. So yeah, if you want to get better at eyes, it really is just practice stick. It really is. Like, and I still have my bad eye days where I try to do an eye and just blorf it, you know. I do that. It's common. Sometimes you, like with Kitty here, I think I got it like almost perfect the first time, and that's just rare. And then once you get them down, you know, at this scale, if you start painting bigger stuff, then you have to figure out how to do big eyes, which is totally a different ball of wax. No, I didn't, but with Froggy the Great, I'm certain that there are horrible things. Yeah, well, anybody who does a painting eyes class that doesn't use the Faceless Horror is like doing it wrong, in my opinion. There's just so many eyes, and it lets you do all different scales on the same model. So why wouldn't you? All right, so we're getting some highlights here, some nice hard highlights on our brassy sword rapier hilt guard. Yeah, he's always been that way. He always likes to take what's there and just twist it into weird stuff. All right, so this is a rounded area, so I'm actually going to make the highlight somewhat round. And I think I actually missed a little bit of flash right there. So I'm going to just take it off and paint over it. I still have my base coat out, so I can easily paint over the area. And then we can get in here with this lighter highlight here. And we'll just wet blend it. Since we just laid down a new coat of base coat, we can make it pretty smooth out the gate by just doing a little bit of wet blending. Blend the two colors together on the model while they are still wet. I'm going to reach for more rich leather. Now we want to pay attention to kind of where we are. We've got light mostly falling on her from the front. So we need to remember that our highlight isn't going to go like way back, and then there's going to be a secondary reflective highlight back here from light bouncing back from the back, with the light is coming from this direction. But it's going to be hitting stuff and bouncing back up at this model from the rear. So our brightest highlights are still going to be on the front, but and we don't want this to wrap around too much, and we do need a shadow between these two. Yes. The Faceless Horror is cool. The Faceless Horror is cool. Yeah, I mean, there are some tricks to painting eyes, for sure. But in the end, it is practicing them. It is finding a way of tackling them that works for you. So take some classes, try some different techniques, look up painting eyes on YouTube and see how different people tackle it. They're probably going to tackle it similarly, but they're going to be like explaining it in different ways. So that's where the useful part comes in. I'm going to put shadow back here on this. See that dark line that I just put in? I put it on with paint that's a little bit thicker so that I could do a little bit of a blend. Bringing in my rich leather, which was my base coat color, and I'm going to try to blend this in. You don't need to blend perfectly on very small areas, guys. You just need to get it mostly there. But it does not need to be perfect. Because it's such a small area that most people won't see if you have a slight division between your highlights and your shadows. Like if you're not a perfect blend, it's usually not going to be evident. Like it's going to look blended. See how that looks blended? I can tell you it's not perfect, but it's going to be good enough. Oh yeah. Yeah, I created the Reaper paint line, Stick Death. I don't think you can create a paint line and not use it unless you've been highly like hypocritical in how you create your line. I created the paint line that I always wanted that fixed all the problems I had with Vallejo and with all the other lines. For me, I wanted something that was more fluid and less goopy. And I wanted something that would stick to the model and not rub off because there were big problems with that with Vallejo. And there's other stuff, like Vallejo tends to separate a lot when you thin it, and I like to thin my paint pretty decisively, so I wanted a paint line that could be thinned and not fall out of solution easily. You can't fix every pigment to be perfect that way, but you can certainly make improvements and get close. So Reaper stays in solution. I mean, all of these paints are thinned at least 2-to-1. Like, it's 2-to-1 paint to water. So for every 4 drops of paint, there are 2 drops of water, which is pretty thin, actually, pretty watery. You can see how you can kind of see through them on the side of the palette, but they don't fall out of solution. They look like the color they are. For me, that's important because I work with a lot of thin paint. We have over 500 different colors, Stick Death. Last I checked, somebody in chat knows. I lost count. And now Sadie is making the new colors, my protege. She's at Reaper since I moved out here. She took over the paint mixing program. So she is now the mad scientist, whereas I've stepped back as mad scientist. But yeah, the other paint line, I won't say I don't like other paint lines. Like, the other paint line that I like, though, is kind of an oddball. It's actually Scale 75's paint line, and it's the tube paint. It's the artist tube paint Stick Death that I love secondarily to Master Series. It is more of a pain because I have to thin it down so much, but its flow and its pigmentation and its level of, like, the level of matte that it has, like the matteness of it, is perfect match for Master Series, so I don't have to adjust that at all, and I really like that. And it has the artist colors that I feel like, it has some pigments, they use some pigments that we don't have access to at Reaper, so I feel okay buying it because it's stuff that I couldn't otherwise get. Putting a little bit of a highlight right here at the top, and then you've got that shadow right under it, and that blend, rounded blend to suggest the roundness of this area. It's more than 350 for Reaper, Pendrake, if you count all the colors we've ever made. And that's the question, right? Are you counting what's in print, or are you counting everything? That a lot of people still own everything, you know? So well, figure we've got 54, more than 50, almost, we've got over 100 bones now. And we've got 60 Pathfinder, and you've got over 300 in the regular line. So just with that, you're at 460. And that's only counting in print. Yeah, have fun, Dragonite. Thanks for popping out. Mithril-esque color. We do have a Mithril Silver in bones, but it's a very, very pale silver. And I mean, what color is Mithril? Token made it up. But if you're looking for a match for this beautiful thing from Games Workshop that is out of print, way out of print, but still I still really like it, you're gonna look more at Blade Steel from Bones, or at Tarnished, I think it's Tarnished Steel, 9206 Tarnished Steel in the regular line. And that would depend. Yeah, I mean, the Bones metallics are brighter. They incorporate a new technology. In all of our metallics, though, you want to put down a layer of opaque paint, darker paint underneath them. So if you want your silvers and steels to be really bright with Reaper paint, put down like a dark gray first. All right, let's see here. I need to get on this other side. But yeah, Reaper metallics, the old metallics are not as glittery, I would say, not as shiny out the gate. They probably photo a bit better because they're not as shiny. They probably, I think the old Reaper metallics kind of take glazes a little bit better, but the people wanted a non-toxic. The difficulty is finding a shiny flake that's non-toxic stick, because we really try to be very family friendly at Reaper. So one of the parameters that I always set as the paint line designer was that your kids, you know, could accidentally drink a bottle and not have to, you know, you still would take them to the emergency room, but you wouldn't have to worry that they were going to die. So I tried really hard to stick to non-toxic flakes, and that limits what we can do, right? So, but the Bones flakes are noticeably shinier. And the nice thing about the Bones silvers is that you can actually blend them. Most metallic flakes are too heavy. to be really blendable as far as layering goes. But the Bones Flakes are much lighter weight. So they'll stay suspended when you thin them to a point. They're based on old pro paints, but not the colors, she means, Nomadzik, not the formulations. We can't do the old pro paint actual formulas. Like, you can do them with the new bases, but the company that created the bases for pro paints went out of business ages ago. And that's when I think we hard committed to Master Series at that point. So when Sadie says something like that, that means that she's using the old flakes and she's using the formulas, but she's using probably our regular metallic base. So they will be slightly different, but they would still be in line. If you wanted a replacement for like Frost, the old blue kind of teal metallic, you could get it close enough. Yeah. All right, so we've got more highlighting over here. We're going to pick up that gold. She's really looking good. She's pretty much from the front. Oh, I forgot the little end of the scabbard. I need to get that, and I need to get this little edge. But from the front, she is almost done, folks. Oh, Fire Glow. Yeah. Yep, Fire Glow is a very popular color, but not popular enough. None of those weird metallics sold great, which is why they were canceled. But they are great novelty paints, so it's nice to reissue them every once in a while you try to come up with some way to use them. That, and there's a lot more good science fiction miniatures out there you might want to use them for. Right, yeah. I call them novelty paints when you've got a colored metallic, unless you've got something that you use it on all the time. They tend to be limited usage, just because of what they are. But when you've got more science fiction miniatures and models and busts out there nowadays, then suddenly they become a lot more viable, because those are the kind of areas that you'd see them in. Although I always liked to use... I like to use colored metallics as kind of the final highlight on dragon scales sometimes, on dragons. Like, I would start the dragon with opaque, but then as the paint came out toward the end of the scale, I'd put a metallic sheen on it. Yeah, I couldn't get the base anymore. Clears are just our paint, but they are pure pigments, CL. So what we mean by that is that clear red is only red pigment in a red base. It has no other pigments added to it to aid in coverage. It has no pigments added to it to shift it. So essentially what they are is they're really good for mixing, and they're really good for like glowing effects where you need a really bright color to suggest a heavy glow if you've got colored light going on. So mixing and glazing, like when you paint a red cape with other reds and you're like, well, I wanted this to be brighter, you can just put a heavy wash or a glaze of it over the cape that you've painted, and it'll make it brighter without losing all of your highlights and shadows. Yeah, pro paints both weren't selling, and also we had and then the bottles got canceled. Like, pro paints just had one strike after another, which is why we no longer do a paint pot paint. The bottles that we used for pro paints, which were superior in my opinion, the company stopped making them, and nobody else really made an equivalent. So there were a lot of reasons that pro paints went the way of the dodo, so to speak. All right, so let's do that bottom there. She's almost there, guys. She's almost there, and then I just have to like upgrade her base a little bit, I think. Probably you'll put her on a round and putty around it and just make it extended. Extend the floor tiles a bit. Extend the stone. The overlapping stone. Just because Ron tends to like them put on a nicer base. instead of just the plastic. So if I'm going to send this one to Reaper, I'll probably do a sculpt on that. Pretty easy and fast. Alrighty. There we are. Shiny. Very shiny. Except I need a little bit more white back here. But yeah, it's kind of like if you've heard of the Chimera colors, where they've got a pure pigment range, and there's a couple other companies now that are doing them, but Reaper's been doing them for ages. The clears. And we call them clear just to warn you that they're not made for coverage. Like, they're made for color, not coverage. And you can't get a perfect marriage of the two currently with paint technology. Every red is going to be a little bit transparent unless you're using that cadmium red, and companies are majorly going away from that because of the toxicity. So there are just some pigments that are not high coverage, and paint companies will add other pigments into those pigments to make them higher coverage so that you can paint more easily with them. But when you just want a really bright red, it's not going to be as high coverage. And really, you can kind of predict in Master Series, most of the pigments are that way. Like the paint colors that are brighter are usually going to be a little lower coverage, the brightest anyway. And the ones that are, you know, more solid and look a little bit more muted are going to be high coverage. Hey, Midwest Miniatures guy, how's it going? Alrighty. Hey, look, the kitty's sparkly. Look at the sparkly kitty, everybody. Sparkly kitty, yay! What time is it? Hey, we got 15 minutes. I can finish this cat. Need to get back here and do the gold real quick on the back. The back of these will not be as bright as the front because I've set up where the light is coming mostly from the front on her. We're not that chaotic. Just because I'm chaotic good doesn't mean that the alignment of the show follows me. Totally tell I'm chaotic because I just go squirrel and get off topic all the time. But yes, chaotic good is my alignment. I used to be more neutral good, but I think my rebellious tendencies have actually grown as I've aged. Oh, hey, Fubeka. Yeah, Fubeka. This is the mini that you should paint this week. Grumpy Cat. Or as I've painted her, kind of Grumpy Cat. Grumpy Cat the Rogue. But yeah, you totally should. She's a super fun paint. If you want to see all of the episodes that I've done on her, you can look on Reaper's YouTube. Just search for her name or her number. Shadow Eyes Catfolk Rogue. And you should find the streams. I painted her from start to finish on this show. There'll be like a week between episodes, but that's because we go back and forth and do different miniatures, so people don't get bored. I'm going to bring up the highlight a bit here. Going to do a bit of an under reflection. Again, we're going to make this highlight round because this is a rounded surface, guys. The shape of your surface, your highlight should emulate it. Oh, is Reaper Live still going today? John or Justin, whoever's listening to me today? We'll go a little long today, I think, because of Twitch or OBS making me late. So we'll go a little later today. That, and I want to bring in some of this stuff. I want a little light there. I want to tamp that back. Bring that highlight a little bit back. Yes, no painting platinum, but Reaper Live is on. Thanks, Hobby Goblin. Yeah, I've been doing exercises. I've been getting up every morning to do some yoga and stretching exercises, and also a little bit of strength building. Every morning, just getting up like 20 minutes earlier, and it really has helped. Like, this is day 4, and it was a slog to get out of bed this morning early. I'll tell you that. But despite that, I did it. Because the secret to getting through the slog is just to do it without thinking about it too much. So yeah, my back feels a lot stronger lately. My core feels stronger. It's all good. In AD&D first edition, the show lives in the happy hunting grounds. Neutral good, chaotic good. Yes, I always loved the happy hunting grounds. I was always like, these are the... This is the post-heaven. David is saying there is stuff in the air that is hitting his allergies. Actually, I've been the same way. I've been very sniffly lately.
Because it's spring here.
It's spring and stuff is in the air. Yep. Oh, good. I'm glad you got mileage from it, Hobby Goblin. That's really the whole point of this show, you know. I may go off on exercising, stretching, life changes, and general alignment tests, but, you know, when we aren't doing that, we're talking about actual painting. And I hope that it helps you. But yeah, totally living. That's great, Derek. Thanks for that. Like, I'm going to imagine our show living in the happy hunting grounds forever now. We're hunting painting tips. Be very quiet. There. That's got a nice sheen on that one, and then we'll get to this other one. Yay. I had forgotten about the happy hunting grounds. I misplaced or got rid of my first edition books long ago. Kind of sad, but not really, because if I had held on to every edition, every book of every edition of every role-playing game that I ever acquired, I would have had like an extra 500 pounds of stuff to move, and I would need 6 more bookshelves, which we do not have room for in this apartment. Hello, Angry Hobbit. It is going. It is going. We're going a little late today because my OBS totally booted me out and then messed up my settings. It was angry, apparently. I'm not certain what I did to make it go all passive-aggressive, but it does tend to do that from time to time. So I started late, so I'm going to go a little late today. I may need another stretch, though. Since I stretch a little bit early in the show. Relatively speaking. I guess I stretch a little after the halfway point, but... Alright, so we're bringing up the edge there. Stick Death, normally if it's just a mini for me, I don't even seal it. Master Series sticks well enough that I don't really feel the need. Like, any rub-off that I see is usually rub-off that I would have gotten even if I would have sealed it, because it'll be on a pointy part like the ears, or some part that sticks out regularly. But when I'm doing a model for another company, for a company where I'm shipping it, like this one's going to go to Reaper, I will put the brush-on sealer on it. The reason for that is that spray sealers are a little bit more brittle and prone to flaking because of their nature. But brush-on sealers tend to be a lot more flexible because of the resin that they use and the fact that it doesn't have to come out of an aerosol, which means that I learned this long ago when I was shipping miniatures to Dark Sword. That if I had used like a spray sealer like Dull Coat and the sword bent, the paint would flake off. But if I had used a brush-on sealer, the paint would actually bend. Like it would not flake. It would resist flaking. So I started using brush-on sealer if I was going to be sending a model by mail to anybody. But for my own competition level work, I don't seal it. It's really depending on like how much you're going to use a miniature, right? Like how much are you going to handle it. For my D&D miniatures, like if I'm painting a model for gaming, then I will put a brush-on sealer coat on it. Yeah, Hugh has a good point with aerosols and the way they can affect like just the surface. It's all science. And also, yes, exactly, Hugh. And then also the thing is that some of the spray sealers seem to take down highlights a bit. Like they seem to knock down your highlights, possibly because of them interacting with that top layer of paint. I noticed that with Dull Coat and some other sealers. So that's why I went over to more brush-on sealers, that and just the general durability. I mean, the reason for it is that for an aerosol to work well, it's coming out in tiny little particles. It has to particulate to that level. Then it has to give a finish that's in line with what you're looking for. But because it's being spread in those tiny little particles, that's why it tends to flake. It doesn't... It's bigger particles that give you more flexibility in paint. And smaller particles tend to be brittle. So that's why spray sealers, unless they've got something going on, I don't know, I've never really run into a spray sealer. It's truly flexible, though, not on the level of a brush-on, and I really feel it's the size of the resins. Well, congrats, Rax! You are first dose vaccinated. Woo for you! I wish that David and I were. We're waiting. I add a little water, Moonglooms. If you use Reaper Brush On right out of the tube, it's going to have a little bit of a satin sheen to it. But I usually do like 5 or 6 drops of sealer and 1 drop or brush full of water, and then it mats out a bit more. And then I just use that. Reaper as a brush-on sealer, it's 9107. It's useful in that it also is great for making washes. If you want to make washes that don't dry with coffee rings, this is your baby. Usually when I make a wash, I use 4 drops of this, 2 drops of water, and then 1 drop of whatever paint I'm going to do. So 9107 brush-on sealer. Shake it up well. You'll be able to usually see the little agitator ball kind of sticking in the bottom because the matting medium in this does tend to settle out just a little. It's a little heavier than the rest of the paint. So shake this well before you use it. Vallejo's matte sealer, brush-on sealer is not bad. I used to use that before I developed mine. I don't know about any other companies. Oh, Canada's messed up with the vaccinations? I'm sorry, Shadow Raven. That's always hard. Like, California is messed up too, so we're feeling that also a little bit. Some states to really have their stuff together. Like, my parents are in Arizona right now. They live there half the year when it's really freaking cold up in Wisconsin. And they've already had their first dose. So they're all excited. They're like, we're going to travel again. I'm like, oh no. I wish I could travel again. Soon. Soon. I have faith. I have faith. Somewhere, some people will get their heads straight and their organizations straight, and we will be able to get a vaccine. Yay, shiny. So you got to get your pure white highlights on your metals, guys, because that's what gives us that great shiny look. Shiny. We need it to be shiny. It must be shiny. Shininess is love. Yay. And life is blorfs. Which we'll totally get a t-shirt on that going. Painting big life is blorfs t-shirt, because it really is. It really is. Life is full of blorfs. There we go. A little bit more light back there. Essentially, the more contrast you can pull with light and shadow on your metals, the more real they're going to look. Even the little ones, even the tiny metals like this guy. When you're doing it on a large model, it gets even more important. Shininess is next to godliness. That might be the next t-shirt, Hugh. Denton's doing well with the drive-through system. Well, that's good to know. Image of Betrayal. Sweet. Shininess is next to godliness. That's funny. Liquitex brush on? Yeah, that's a problem with art companies, with 2D art companies, Nepharsis. For so long, matte actually meant satin to them. I mean, I went to art school ages ago, and that's the way it was. Like, and it frustrated me. And it still frustrated me. They're starting to switch, though. They're starting to slowly get there, where they're starting to go toward more matte properties to answer to the current batch of artists, because it's more like people are doing a lot more illustration stuff, and they want more matte paint and more matte finishes. So art companies are slowly starting to pivot, but boy, it's taken them for freaking ever. I think Life is Blorfs has more of a ring. Like, we gotta, you know, short and sweet. The best taglines are short and sweet. Life is Blorfs is fantastic. Though I do appreciate all of you guys helping with the slogan making process. I have to dedicate, if we really do start up a Zazzle store with painting big t-shirts, I will have to credit all of you with helping. All right, just doing a little extra highlight here on my swords, kind of blending in some stuff, trying to get a little bit of better blends here and there. We can do a little bit of glazing to bring things together. There, that's good. Feel like I need a little bit more highlight some places. So we're just doing these last little toony bits. And then I need to hit the edges. Yeah. To Blorf is human. That's a good one. That's a good one. Dabber. That's a good one. Let's see. To Blorf is human. I'll write that down. Really, I just need the Blorf icon. I need the big paint splatter with the word Blorf across it. And then we can just add text. Adding text on these t-shirt design engines is super easy. It's just getting the initial image. All credit to Francis. Yeah. Yes, to Blorf is human. It needs to be funny. Because I like funnies. Alright, a little bit more of an edge highlight here, bringing up the edge of the sword. Can be hard with the plastics to hit the edge with the side of your brush, so you gotta be careful. Sometimes you have to just paint it on. Alrighty, good. That's good. Need my white highlight on those little rivets. Max wins. To Blorf is human, but to unjudge is divine. Yes! Yes, indeed. I would say so. Hashtag unjudge. I can't wait for my hashtag unjudge t-shirt. When I get it, I'll wear it. It'll be in like the first week of March, probably. And then we'll put the design up. Black t-shirt and white text is what I went with. I tried some other colors, but it just didn't look it didn't look good enough. Like those big like hashtag like, you know, word things don't look as good. They don't look as punchy if you put them on a charcoal gray t-shirt. It's like you're watering them down. Unjudge yourself before you wreck yourself. Yeah, but we're already kind of wrecked. It's more like unjudge yourself so you can fix yourself. Paint Blorf and the life is Blorf's. A Zen garden look. Ah, interesting. Interesting, Chibi. That's a good idea. We can art it up, right? But then we have to really do the Zen and the Art of Mini Painting t-shirt where we put all the slogans, right? We can get together, Chibi. We can put our heads together and come up with some cool t-shirts. All right. That's highlighted. That's good. That's good. That's good. Back of the sword's just a little bit dicey. I could probably clean them up a little bit more. But I might clean them up when I'm doing the floor just because I'll have some various colors mixed up. Although I could probably do a little bit of a blend here. A little bit of blending. A little bit. Don't need much back here. I feel like I need a little bit more dark here. Coming down the back. We actually have a bunch of dinosaurs in Bones 5 that are shipping right now. Hugh. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Reaper's Bones 5 Kickstarter had a lot of dinosaurs in it. Some really nice sculpts from Jason. It's difficult for Reaper to just pivot on a dime and produce a giant dinosaur mini, because we tend to do our big minis with the help of Kickstarter. So, because it's just so expensive to do really big ones. So we can't just turn around and go, we're just going to make this Triceratops figure if we don't already have a Triceratops figure in the works. It takes a lot of time. There we go. Now I feel a little bit better about that. All right, one more highlight on the armor. Let's try it, guys. Let's do it with our last little 5 minutes. Or was it Bones 4? Maybe. Maybe it was. I get them mixed up. I think almost every Reaper person gets them mixed up. Let's see. So we ended up highlighting with Cat's Eye Green on that armor. That's alchemical. I don't want that one. I want this one. But I might want Dungeon Slime to highlight it with. We're just going to go up to pure Cat's Eye, I think, because I did not go all the way up. Where is my kitty? I did, yeah, Kraken Ink shading, and then Ancient Oak base and Cat's Eye. We went up with Cat's Eye. So I'm going to try going up with a little more Cat's Eye. And Cat's Eye is a nice, kind of medium yellow-green. Green-yellow? Yellow-green. Yeah, I ordered the Kid Adventures because Christine does such great work for Bones 5. And the Yeti encounter because I love the big face and the snow leopards. The terrain piece and the snow leopards. I'm not a Yeti fan, but, you know, maybe we'll use them for something. Or maybe I'll just use them as examples of how to paint fur. We can do a Yeti of a different color. We can do all sorts of colored Yetis for Patreon. We'll do the month of the Yeti. Okay, so I'm just going to go for pure Cat's Eye here. And kind of do a little bit just where I think like some of my lights would be. And try to just bring up some of the details here. It's not going to be super bright. I don't want it super bright because, like, this is meant to be leather. I'm painting it as if it's leather, as a rogue, and that's what she would have. And I don't want to accentuate it. I don't want it to be too glossy. The higher highlight you take it, the more you're saying the surface is glossy. And I don't mind the leather being a little glossy. So we can bring in a little extra like that. And it'll also punch up our green a little bit. And here I'm probably just going to get it up on the upper edges. Because I'm overall happy with the armor. I just want a little bit more. And I've thinned this paint, but not a huge amount. Because Cat's Eye is it's a decent coverage paint. It's not super opaque though, so it doesn't require a ton of thinning to get it to go smooth. Now that's a Yeti of a different color. Yes, exactly. But I like the idea of doing that, Derek, because people ask for tips on painting fur all the time. So it'd be kind of fun to do Yetis in all different colors and fur schemes. We could do a leopard spot Yeti, and we could do like a tiger striped Yeti, and we could do snow leopard Yeti to get the white Yeti in there. We could do a pure black Yeti. We could do all sorts of fun stuff. Just as a fur demo. Be a good time. A Siamese Yeti. Do we want to do a Siamese Yeti? And retreat. Yeah. Yeah. Do I need Ancon? Do I need painting Big Con? Is that the next step, guys? I think I need to be making a little more money on Patreon before I do that. It's actually a goal. Workshops, like actually doing workshops is a goal for my Patreon. Like if we ever get up to a really big level. Because I want to be able to pay for a venue, right? And stuff like that. So there. So that's a little bit greener. Do you see the difference here? how we brought up the green here and as opposed to here. And I haven't actually minimized my shadows at all. It's actually, Prehistoric Lizard is actually a purple. It's a fantastic purple that my protege Sadie made. It's called Kraken Ink. I don't know where it went out here. Maybe it's in my off blacks. I have to find it. But anyway, it's like, oh, there it is. So Kraken Ink is 9507. It's a really black purple. You can see how dark it is. But purple is a fantastic shader for greens. Like, I always tell people this. It's one of my favorite colors to shade greens with. Especially olivey greens like this one. And what it's doing is it's kind of giving us, that hint of other color, and almost looks like a bug carapace, right? It's almost like, it's not iridescent, but it gives it more interest. It looks almost magical. So that's why it works. It's you're using that purple, and now if I'm heading up toward a yellowy green on my highlights, then purple and yellow are complementary. So they interact with each other even more. So anyway, I've been referring to my Patreon, but we're getting to the end of the stream, so I'm going to plug my Patreon. It is patreon.com/paintingbig. And, yeah, it's what I do. I love my Patreon. I was just, filming video for it yesterday. And we're doing, for the $10 tier, we're doing a series on dramatic lighting that I'm really looking forward to. So I'm just going to do a little bit of that green. It only needs a touch. Like, it's amazing how much of a change you get from a very small highlight at this point. Just by bringing in a brighter green on a tiny piece of this armor, and it brings that whole area up. Thank you for the link, Creeper John. Thank you for the resub, Varl. Long time to see. But yeah, greens, purples are great. I always loved using purple to shade olive green in particular. I always felt like it worked really, really well. It just makes this beautiful color interaction. Possibly also because purple, green, and orange are the secondary color triads, so using them to highlight and shade each other tends to give things a very interesting and exciting pop. Like, if you take your greens and you, like, kind of mix in burnt oranges to like add some highlights, then the same kind of weird interaction happens where it's so much more interesting than just if I had just painted this armor dark green, right? So always consider using different colors to highlight and shade if you're going for an interesting effect. It's not so much a realistic effect, it's more of a stylistic kind of magical almost effect. You could definitely imagine this armor being magic armor, magic leather. And I'm just going to hit the bottom parts here where they're coming out and catching the light. And intensifying that a little bit, bringing it out. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a really good level. Your sub can almost legally drink. Don't be hard on yourself, Shaunold. It's sometimes you need to see somebody else's paint job on a thing before you're like, oh, dang, ideas, right? I do that too. With busts often, I'll be kind of looking at stuff and then I'll see somebody do just something like really interesting and I'll be like, oh, dang, I didn't even think about doing something like that. What was wrong with me? But don't be hard on yourself. Just like make a note so that you can try it yourself in a future model. Because, yeah, if you just look at the sculpt, this could look like a very simple sculpt, right? If you just painted it, like, with brown or black leather, you know, it could be pretty, you know, just kind of there. But you can do a lot more. I like making leather in different colors because it's something I think people did, right? There's a lot of, like, oxblood is the very simplest dye for leather. And they also used to make it, like, paler through the use of chemicals. So people have been dyeing leather for a long time. And so I think that with a rogue, you don't have to just go with a predictable color. You could go with anything dark. And then, you know, by choosing a different color to shade it, an unusual, maybe even exotic color to shade it, we've really brought it up. You want a natural sable brush if you want it to stay pointy for a long time, Benny. Anything that's a synthetic hair, which is usually like, you know, like the orange bristles or the white bristles that you see in stores, those are all synthetic, which means they're just plastic hairs, so they're going to deform. So a really good sable is pretty pricey, but worth it if you take good care of your brushes. You could get a good, they're called Kolinsky. You always will see the word on the barrel. And usually they're between 10 and 20 bucks, depending on the grade and the size and the pricing. But they last for years. Like I've been abusing, let's see here, where's my other much abused brush here? I've been abusing this one on the right for like over a year now, like really, really abusing it. And it still keeps a perfect tip. These are the same size of brush, and you can see that this still, it's worn down a little bit, but it still keeps a perfect tip. And that's what a good Kolinsky Sable is going to do for you. If you want to try it, you can try one of Reaper's. Reaper has a more inexpensive grade of Kolinsky Sable. It's their Master Series brush. It's going to be the black handle. And the sizes that I recommend in the Reaper Kolinsky are the 0/5 and the 0/10. 0/5 is probably like my all-time, like I used it a lot when I was Reaper staff painter. If Ren Fairs. We cannot use Ren Fairs as the standard for medieval leather. Or even necessarily for fantasy world leather, although you never know once you get magic in play. Yeah, and it comes down to proper brush care. So, Benny, it's like, but no matter how good you take care of your brushes, Hugh, if you're using a plastic bristle, it will always hook. It will eventually hook. And it won't take long. It won't take many hours of usage. You can keep them a little bit better by caring for them better, but the plastic bristle just wears differently than a natural hair does. So the best synthetics are actually the synthetic Kolinskys. There's some companies that are coming out with them, and they apparently are a higher grade. They will still eventually hook, but they're making progress on the synthetic brushes. They're just not quite there yet. If you take good care of your brushes, and by that I mean you rinse them frequently, you don't let paint dry in them, and you don't leave them nose down in the water jar. Never ever leave them nose down in the water jar. It only will kill your brushes. Yeah, cheap brushes I mean, that's what my big flat is. It's like dry brusher for terrain and stuff, right? Okay, I think we're pretty good, and I think this kitty, I just need to get, that's right, I need to get just a little bit more, guys. We're almost done. We need to get the green on this, on the back of her here. And then Kitty is, like, I need to do, I think, just a little bit more leather highlighting. But other than that, Kitty's looking good. Like, I think maybe we'll do one more show. I'll try to get her basing done on her. And then just some general quality of paint tweaks. But I just want to get this last little highlight. Last a little bit more green. A little bit more green. That's a little bit too thick. Just want to kind of blend it in and get a little bit of light here. A little bit of a blurf there. Yeah, hopefully Ron will be happy with her. Oh, he really likes the Juliana. So he'll be happy to get that one. The dancing girl's just cute. He probably already has another example of it, but with the transparent cloth, I think she turned out well. And yeah, then we got our kitty. And all three of them will go dancing over to Reaper. So there we go, guys. There is Grumpy Cat. So yeah, we'll do one more. I got her leather like nice and tuned up on the front, but I didn't really get it like tuned up and highlighted much on the back. And there's some straps. Like actually I need to do like some of the green straps here real quick before my green is dead. But yeah, so we'll just do probably one more session with her, and then I'll have to pick a new mini. I'll have to dig out all my since I haven't gotten my new package yet. I'll have to dig out my new mini and new mini selection, what I've got, and see what our next model will be to replace the kitty. You guys have said that you wanted a bit more monsters, so maybe I can find a vampire. I don't know if I have a good vampire. I ordered one. Like, I sent my order in based on what you guys had asked for. But like I said, I haven't gotten, I'm not sure where it is. It could be caught in the ether. My order from Reaper. Because of I ordered it right before the big freeze, so I'm sure everything's a little crazy. There we go. Little bit of highlight, these little bits of highlights make such a big difference in bringing stuff up. Excellent. That may be even a little bit too bright, but I can dull that down a little bit. There. Excellent. So there you go. All right, who are we going to raid today, Reaper? Kitty is looking fantastic. Raiding zombies. Awesome. Super, you guys. Well, tomorrow we're going to be working on... Oh, I forgot to recap. So today we went and we did all of our NMM. We tuned up some of our NMM silver, and we added highlights on our armor to get Kitty to a stone's throw from done. Tomorrow we're going to be working on Living Statue, who's really coming along really, really well. So I hope to see you all. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. And welcome to the new people. I know I saw a lot of new people chatting with us today. Welcome. I do this every weekday at 11:30 a.m. Central. So come back. All right. See you guys later. Adios.